about time.
All flash, no substance. So today's top 5 is actually going to be a little different because we're going to do it in something that I really enjoy from movies. It's actually going to be the cold open, where a movie just instantly starts before it even gets to tell you that you're in the movie. Now, the cold open is kind of seem like a stylized cinematic thing that most people don't like to use because the audience is kind of expected to just kind of go with it, but I feel like it's a great technique that should be used more. So my top 5 today, like I said, will be the top 5 cold opens. I will say I have a caveat to it because some people consider cold opens to be too vague and generic. My cold opens actually have to be before the title is put on screen. I will accept if a credit may roll or something like that, but the title can't come up on the screen. So it's going to exclude stuff like The Matrix. It's going to exclude Deadpool. It's going to exclude Raiders of the Lost Ark, because yes, I double checked it. The very first 2 seconds of Raiders of the Lost Ark, the title does come up. It's also going to exclude Star Wars because yes, George Lucas started putting the Star Wars crawl before the battleship, before the Star Destroyer coming out, and it will discard Jaws because once again, the title for Jaws comes up before we get to see the naked lady underwater. All right. So with that being said, I had to really kind of dig around and figure out which ones, and I actually did verify that these actually do start with no title. So that's going to go ahead and jump us into my number 5. So number five, I actually went with Way of the Gun. So this is an old Ryan Phillippe movie back when in his heyday, when they thought he was going to be a leading man, just didn't turn out to be that. But in this opening scene, it's him outside of the bar, and there is a really, really mouthy Sarah Silverman, who's the girlfriend of this guy who's just mouthing off and talking mess because she knows her boyfriend's gonna go over there and beat up Ryan Phillippe's character. So if you see the scene, and I'm gonna have it up on screen, but like I said, she is just saying the most flagrant stuff to him. So much so that when he comes over and the boyfriend's ready to get down and for the fight, Ryan Phillippe just lays her out. And I am not for violence against women, but if anybody deserved to be punched in the mouth, Sarah Silverman did in that particular moment. The rest of the movie, like I said, for an action film, it is a really, really decent film. I can't say it's the best film, but it's a really good, decent film. If you haven't seen it on a weekend or something, you need something to watch, give it a try. But that opening scene for this movie sells the movie and makes you want to see the rest of this movie all the way through. All right. So that's going to bring me to my number 4. Number 4! And number 4, I went with Enter the Dragon. So, I know Enter the Dragon is a classic movie. But the opening scene, like I said, even if you don't see the rest of the movie, is still a great scene because Bruce Lee is in it, but also two, the philosophy portion of it, when he talks to the student, but the martial arts on screen, when like this is the first time we got to see MMA-esque in a sense, with him fighting the person in his little short shorts and little knee pad boots and his fingerless gloves, and then watching him do backflips. Look, the scene is amazing. It's gonna be on screen. If you've never seen the very beginning of Enter the Dragon, where have you been? But it's a definite must watch, and that opening scene sets the tone for this movie going forward. All right, so that's gonna bring me to my number 3. My number 3, I actually went with Watchmen. Now, the Watchmen opening scene actually it's kind of lengthy, and I will acknowledge that it is kind of lengthy, but it sets the tone for the universe that we're in, and it gives us a great superhuman fight. And at the moment, we didn't really know it until like the violence started really ramping up. We're like, oh my god, these guys are super strong. But it sets up a great action scene, and like I said, it builds up the tone of like what this movie's going to be about, how dark this movie is, going into the credit intro, even the credit intro playing that
6 hours later.
But it's a Bob Dylan song, so it plays that song while it's introducing the rest of the heroes throughout time. So like from the opening, from the world building with the news montage at the beginning, into the fight with the comedian and Osmodeus, to the credit roll where it shows you the life, the history of superheroes in this world through time. Like I said, it's a very great look. I know people are like, it's a polarizing film. You either really, really like it or you really, really hate it if you're a big fan of the comics. But that opening scene is really, really great, and you got to watch it. And if you've never read Watchmen, you should definitely see the movie. All right, so that's going to bring me to my number 2. Number 2, Scream. Look, for a horror fanatic like I am, like Manny is, for slasher films, this was probably the best opening, and it just kind of starts right off the gate this way. It goes in, it gives you that definite babysitter, Home Alone, you know, the killer's outside talking through the phone, like what is the one where the killer's in the house? They give you all the different tropes for horror movies, and that's basically what this movie is. Give me a bunch of tropes, but putting it in more of a modern setting, and just kind of calling back on all of those, and then thinking that your main character in this scene is actually going to make it for her to ultimately die. It really sets a tone for the film, but also to kind of really get you in the flow of like what this movie's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be recalling all of the great horror tropes and kind of setting rules and narratives about like how things should play out in this particular movie. It's a great thing. It's a shocking if you've never seen it and I just spoiled it, my bad. But it's a great movie which spawned off 5 more sequels after that. Go ahead and see it. I'm sure you've seen it already. So that brings me to my number 1. My number 1. I had to think about this one for a while, and I had to go through the different criteria about like what qualifies, what doesn't qualify. And this one does qualify on multi levels. 1, because you don't get the damn title sequence to the end of the movie, but 2, because it has an amazing opening sequence. So much so that they filmed it in IMAX. And I know you guys know by now. It is The Dark Knight. So the opening, the robbery scene, heist scene with the Joker is probably one of the best cold open scenes, or just opening scenes to a movie in general. The way it looked in IMAX, the whole not understanding exactly what's going on, but knowing that they're robbing, all the way to where you get to the end and you realize, oh crap, it was the Joker behind this thing the whole time. Or, oh my God, they're all betraying each other. Like, where's this gonna end? It's a great setup to the movie, and it really sets him up as like a phenomenal villain outside of everybody else watching the movie and idolizing Heath Ledger's performance as a Joker. But it really sets him up as a great villain for this film. But like I said, I know setting the tone, I've said that a few times. I wish there was a counter to tell me how many times I said that. But like it's the great start to a great film. All right, so those are my top 5 cold open films. I know I'm gonna have a little bit of debate in the comments as far as like what you guys feel I left off, but trust me, it didn't quite meet my criteria. So it's gonna bring me to honorable mentions. With that being said, in my honorable mentions, there's so many things that didn't make it. So I went with Jaws. No, I'm sorry, not Jaws. I didn't mean to go with Jaws. I went with Ghostbusters as my honorable mention because Ghostbusters actually does meet the criteria, but the cold open to Ghostbusters, while it did scare me as a kid, rewatching it now, it's kind of lame. The movie really doesn't get good until the Ghostbusters actually show up, so that's why I didn't really want to put it into my top 5. The other ones that I had, obviously any Bond film, and I could not remember the Bond film. I think it was Spectre, where like there's a whole train blowing up behind him, and he just like walks through the door and straightens his jacket on top of the train or inside the train, or where it was like the coolest thing I had ever seen. And always when Bond has a whole action scene at the beginning of any of the Bond films, they always try to go over the top. The only thing I could say why I didn't want to put any of those in my top 5 is because it's really cliche at this point. You just know that's what you're gonna get out of a James Bond film. It's never surprising anymore. It's to be expected. Also, too, the John Wick ones from 2 to 3 and probably gonna be in 4. Where it's always starting on the run, like in 2 where it started where he was out to go get his car. In 3 he was on the run from different assassins on a horse. I mean, what better start can you have to a movie than that? So once again, put your top 5 in the comments below, put together a list, tell me what I forgot. Hopefully it meets my criteria. I'm gonna say that's the reason why I didn't put it in, or take my list and make your own list, or however you want to do it. If this is the first time that you're on the channel, make sure you subscribe as well as click the notification button so that way you're aware of all the other videos that we do on the channel. So with that being said, you guys take care.
Real quick, if you're still here, because we do these into the video little blooper things. If you're still here, look down. There's a link here for Patreon. If you guys like the show, please give us money. Give us money. We'll take a penny. We'll take a nickel. We'll take a dime. We'll take $1. We have some stuff on there that we're giving away on Patreon if you do contribute, because trust me, we need help. We need help. We want to buy new equipment, and we need an editor. Somebody who doesn't have to stay up in the middle of the night. Or they'll have to stay up in the middle, but I won't have to do it. So please, down patreon.com/thegoods. It's in the link. Please do it. We appreciate it. Top flight.